Hi, this is Frank Thomas. Sorry for the delay getting started today, but I've got a really cool series for you. It's just the beginning. I'm going to be diving deep into the .NET MVC model and show you what I know, and maybe we can learn something. So stay tuned. Okay, Frank Thomas here. I'm glad to have you here on the show. I'm just getting everything ironed out when it comes to my actual studio setup, which is awesome. I think I've got the audio problems finally resolved. As well as I've got my Stream Deck, which I purchased like yonks ago, like a long time ago, finally working with my studio software. For anybody's asking, because I know somebody's going to ask, I use vMix, fantastic piece of software. I highly recommend it. But going forward here, I'm going to be doing a series on the Microsoft .NET MVC. MVC is Models, Views, Controllers style of programming under C#, of course. The whole idea here is to kind of give you an idea of how I do things. One of the hardest things about MVC is there's so much to it. There's so much you can do. There's so much when you're building a site under .NET. There's so many different ways you can do the same thing. There's so much you can learn. It's overwhelming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together a series initially on the basic stuff on how I build a site. I'll show you very quickly in today's video. I'm going to be showing you the difference between building a site using the templating system within the Visual Studio 2017. And the second is actually doing some of the manual setup, because it does kind of help to get you to understand. And I'll be using the latest and greatest of tools. One of the things I'll be showing you is Entity Framework. You can program using ADO.NET, which is the basic standard for talking to a database. But Entity, once you start figuring it out, is actually a smoking platform to program against, because it does a lot of things for you. Notably, one of the greatest things is the they call it code first programming. Okay, there's database first, code first, and there's, I think it's called a hybrid or combination. I can't remember what the third one's called. But I do the code first. The whole idea is you're going to be creating objects that will be a representation of the database. And with Entity and with something called migrations, you can fire up a database quick as can be. And when you put it onto a cloud service like Azure, or I like using Everleap, I'll put a link. I actually recommend Everlink. I'll put a link into the description for you. Using these services, the cool thing is, once you set it all up to connect to the cloud service, if you make a change within the code, you can use a migration to update your database schema, and then automatically, when you do a push or publish to the cloud server, the code first will be selected. I'll be showing you that, and it will automatically on first run fix or run the changes in the migrations from the last time it saw a migration. Fantastic. I tell you something, somebody, when I was first taught Entity, my instructor said to me, I was going to love Entity. And they're right. I really do love it. It makes our job as coders so much easier. Now, I do recommend that you understand database design. I'm not asking you to be a DBA, like a database administrator, but it's really good to understand database design, simply because of the fact that if you understand how a database comes together, then you can program in Entity and code first much better. Okay, you get a better result because you understand the underlying structure that you're trying to build. Because I understand what it is to be a DBA, how to build databases and such. And doing this is great because it allows me to be proactive during my build, because I'm thinking about my models, my views, and how it all looks at a database. Okay, and that's really important. Enough said. I'm going to be just showing you quickly today two different projects that we're going to be playing with out of the gate. The first one's a very simple project that we're going to build, and the second one is going to be allowing Visual Studio to put a lot of the pieces in there for us. And I'm going to show you the beginnings of both of them. So without any further ado here, let's jump over to the screen. I've got to minimize my YouTube window for the actual stream. Right now I've just got Visual Studio 2017 open. I am not going to go through a tutorial showing you how to install 2017. I'm hoping by now you already know how. And make sure you're running the latest or greatest version. You're all set up. You're good to go. So all we have to do is literally say File, and we have to say New and Project. Now I am going to start out, and I'm going to stay away from .NET Core. I'm going to stay away from anything desktop. I'm just going to look at the web and .NET Standard. Okay, I apologize. I usually program on my other machine, and I don't use my student machine for this, but we will hammer through. This is no, I don't want a class library. I have to make sure I've actually installed all the goobies in the box. Oh, sorry. No, that's right. I recently just installed this, so I do apologize. I was running the older version. There we go. Windows, ASP.NET Windows Application.NET Framework. Okay. I am going to just modify the location of where I'm going to save it. Okay, we're going to call this blank MVC app, just for anything else. We're going to use a lot of the other standards here. We're going to say OK, and it's going to come up asking us what do we want to set up. Now the whole idea behind this is we could set up a web form site. That's a totally different animal. I can make it completely empty. I'm not going to go that bare bones. MVC is what I'm going to select, and I'm going to make sure that this says no authentication. In the other project, we're going to be selecting individual user accounts, and that builds a lot more into the box for us. But just for now, just straight MVC, and that's it. I'm going to say OK, and let it build the initial framework for us. And this is going to be a real tease. I'm not going to lie to you, because I'm just going to build the project, kind of show you where things live, what's installed, what's not, and like things that we're going to need. Now, one thing that you need to know, the 2017 version still uses the Bootstrap version 3, not version 4. So we have to upgrade that, and I'll show you that stuff too in a future video. So I don't really need this here. So looking at the actual framework here, we have a few directories. We have a few things going on. You're going to see here, web.config is kind of like our base configuration files for the actual site. Okay. The thing that's important here is we don't really have anything else. That's it. That's all we got. We don't have, and actually I want to look here. If we actually run the site, just for kicks and giggles, let's do that. It's going to be very plain, no database, no entity, nothing. So this model assumes you're just making like a standard site, without any bells and whistles in it. So, but we can build anything we want to in it from here. So, sorry, we're just waiting for it to start up here. Okay, so there you go. So basic site. It's got a few pages built in here. Just so you can see here the views, the MVC, okay. Models is the things we built to illustrate the views as well as actual models in the database. That's what M stands for. Views is the actual views, like the pages. Like from our home, we have an about, a contact, and an index page, and as well as we also have a shared folder here, which contains our layout, which is our guts. These pieces here literally get nailed into here, which is the render body. Okay, so simple. Now moving into controllers, you see here, the controller is the beastie that kind of gets us moving along here. So when we go into the base site, which is index, it will show us the underneath home here. It shows us the index page. Okay. We go underneath of about contact, or the about page, and a contact is a contact. So pretty straightforward. Let's just see what's actually not loaded into here right now. I'm going to click on Manage NuGet Packages. NuGet is a package manager for Visual Studio. Fantastic. Love it. What I'm looking at now, you see here, like I said, it contains entity 337. Okay. It does contain jQuery, which is awesome, as well as jQuery validation. We'll use it in some places in the future. Razor, MVC model, these are things just to kind of get things going. But if we type an entity, we ain't got it. So we have to install that. And actually, you know what we're going to do is we are going to jump over to Browse here, and we're going to do just that. So what we're going to select here is the Entity Framework by Microsoft. It could be 6.2, could be a newer version when you get it. Regardless, that's what we want. Okay, now before we install it, let me back up 1 second here. We don't have a migrations folder because we're going to enable migrations as well here in a second. Now you see we don't have a migrations folder. Nothing in the top root here. So let's install this. Okay, we're going to say okay. And we accept. Entity is pretty much a package on its own. You're going to see here underneath of references, we're going to see Entity Framework and Entity Framework SQL Server. Perfect. That's what we want. We don't have to think much harder than that. So if you look in the installed, we now have Entity installed. That's what we wanted. Okay, the second thing we're going to do is we're going to enable migrations. Okay, and you're going to say, but Frank, I don't have a database. That's okay. Actually, I'll hold off on that because I'm going to run this video really long if I do that. We'll jump into that when we get to the next step into the next video. So that's the basic kind of framework. So now we have Entity in there. Now with Entity, we're going to be able to talk to the database using the Entity Framework, which is going to be awesome. Okay, so for now, well, let's say we're just going to close this. I'm going to close the whole solution, and we're going to create a second solution. Okay, I'm going to select exactly the same project. It's just the options that are going to be different. I can't remember what I called the other one. Oh, app. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to say okay. Now, one subtle difference here, all the same other settings, but we're going to change authentication to individual user accounts. And this is going to load a lot of stuff for us, which is awesome. Now, this is a great starting point if you're making a site that is going to require authentication, entity. You know, a lot of times I might just build a site right from here. I'll put the user authentication in if I don't use it because it does put in a lot of pieces for us. I'm going to say okay. It really does build a lot of pieces for us, which you'll see here in a second. Now, why would you do the other way? Sometimes you want the minimalist effect. Sometimes you want less than more, and that's understandable too. As well as it's a great learning place. It's a great place to see the whole site in a simpler version and build it up as you go so you get an idea where things live. So you see here, we have a few more things going on here. Underneath of application start, and I didn't show you this on the other one, you're going to have bundle.config, which is your bundles. This is the same on the other side. The one thing I'm going to be going to here is identity config. Okay, this is the identity. And you're going to say, but is identity already installed? And I say, you betcha. So we go to NuGet Packages. There it is right there. It's installed as part of it. But also, other things are installed as well, which allow you to do the authentication. The identity, okay, there's an identity entity framework. So this is the identity core. This is the user authentication. The OWN is part of the user authentication. Okay, those are the biggies. Again, more OWN and OWN security, OWN basic, OWN cookies, OWN Facebook, OWN. You know, you can tie to everything. Okay, and it becomes pre-installed out of the box. Now, let's just, for giggles here, let's fire this site up. Just fire it up as it is and see what happens. Now, you notice we didn't set up a database. You'll see some magic here in a second. Okay, before we go that far, I'd actually like to show you that. So if I go under Server Explorer here, what I can do is I can click on Servers here, and this is my machine here, video processor, and I can refresh. Don't have any database. Nothing. So let's fire this up. Now this is the magic, and I could be wrong, so take it with a grain of salt. I believe it's Entity that's doing this magic for us in the background. So as you can see, I can register. This is something new that wasn't in the other site. So like I can say I can put in that email there. I'll put in a complex password. And I'm going to register. Now, first try, it's thinking. It's chugging away. Okay, it's thinking about that. In the background, what has occurred? Darn, it's hiding the server window. So I'll wait till we pause. What is happening is it's actually created our database for us as part of the solution, which is really cool. It's actually went in there and done a lot of stuff. So I can log off. Now, if I didn't have a database, this wouldn't be persistent. I couldn't go right back in and log in again. And I can. So let's see what's going on in the background. If I jump back here, go back to Server Explorer. Let's refresh that. Oh, look at that. We didn't have this earlier. Data connections. Isn't that interesting? That's what I was looking for earlier. And you can see here, we now have a database. It's got a few tables, and these are the base tables that are needed. You'll see as well that there's a migrations history folder here. Okay. Let's just go over here, and we're going to refresh this. Actually, I think it puts this table in here, but I don't think there's any data in it yet. But basically, it creates the table for us, which is awesome. Okay, so it did put something in here for us, so I take that back. I wasn't sure about that. Now, next thing I'm going to do is say that now we have a database. Now we've got something in here. And this database is actually part of the solution. I'll have to dig it up later. I don't know what underneath the base install. I'll have to see where that database is actually held. We can actually look under our web.config. It's probably in here. Connection string. There we go. Okay, speed on that. We'll stick with that. But the whole point here is this actual project lights up a lot of stuff for us automatically. Now, I'm going to kind of allude into the whole thing of migrations here. So I'm just going to go underneath of the window here. Again, I apologize. I've already reconfigured this and I haven't done it for a while, so I have got to think about it. Package Manager console, that's what it is. Now it shows up down here automatically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable migrations. Okay, I've totally forgotten how to do it. It's been a while since I've done it. But you got to be live. It's lovely when it's live. I'll leave that to the next video. Let me do a little bit of research. I do have a fact site which I can look at and pull up the information and take a look at that. But that's the basics of setting up the two different projects. We're going to dive into both, like I mentioned earlier, and figure out how we can use the two of them for best effect and take it to the next step. This is Frank Thomas. Make sure you stick around for the next time, and make sure if you haven't subscribed that you do so, or become a super subscriber. Click the notifications bell and you'll know the minute that I start the next video. Thanks a lot. Frank Thomas here. Enjoy your day.